we're chasing down the legends and we're beating every time. Better move over, Kingston, there's a new sled on the track. The warehouse is in the lead, and we ain't looking back. Warehouse 15, top of the podium. Sorry, soccer, the gold stays with the crew.
Sorry! Ah! Not sorry, snowflakes!
Had an amazing conversation about dark chocolate and milk chocolate, but I won't fill you in on the details because that is the Warehouse 15 uncut, unbelievably real, keeping it real every day. I'm joined by my brothers in arms, and it was an excellent article. It reminded me of the two of you today. It was in the New York Times. It says, "Where do you keep your Olympic medal?" And I saw that picture. Dude, I saw the picture, and it was like they took a picture of my drawer. Mine is next to my passport in my bedside drawer. That's where it is. So if you come into my house and you want to rob it, that's where you find it. Leave my passport, though. I need that. I don't need the medal. Welcome, brothers. How are you today?
Oh, where's yours, TJ?
I'm good. Mine is actually in this case that I've had since 2012. It looks a little beat up, but like, because I travel with it a lot, so it's just easy to keep it in a case and
Right. You still do
pop
that.
it in my bag and stuff. Yeah. It's
So
like-
for years, mine was like same thing here. Like it was in my sock drawer forever. And about, I don't know, 5 years ago, I just kept them in the box and I put them on this shelf like in my room. That's by like I have like 10 books that I love that I always reread or kind of look at, and I just put them up there. They're just collecting dust. But you know, I don't know if I ever told the story, but I had this buddy that was gonna do a replica of his, and he told me, he's like, hey, if you want yours, you know, to get some replicas of them, you know, just send them to me, and I'm gonna send them to Korea. I'm gonna get them made. They're gonna look really nice. I said, you know what, that'd be pretty cool because then I could travel with them and stuff. So I gave them to him. And then like 6-7 months later, I call him like, hey, how's it going? He said, oh no, they're good. They're getting it done. They had some problems. Okay. About 6 months after that, so we're into it for a year. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Oh no, they had a problem. They're gonna send them back, and don't worry about it. And about 6 months later after that, I'm like, yo, mother effer, what's going on? No, they sent it to you. They didn't send it to you. Give me your. Then 6 months later, I'm like, yo. Just tell me if they're gone. They're gone. I reserve the fact that they're gone. And about 3 months later, they show up in a package.
You got them back?
I open
got 'em
them
back.
up,
Oh,
and
nice.
I look, and I see my 2 Olympic medals, and I almost cried. But there was extra stuff. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this guy, man, this guy's. Yeah, and
I had a guy. I knew a guy because
oh, it was you. Oh, my bad.
Where I come from, there are guys that can do things. So I had somebody who actually made a replica of my first medal because I wanted to keep it, and I wanted to have an extra one that I could carry around and share it with the kids and stuff. And then that person disappeared. So I was going to Korea, and Koreans can do anything. But when I did go to Korea and I brought the medals, I showed him the medals, and the guy said he couldn't do it. So when I had it made originally, it was in New York from this ring maker who made me a ring for the TV show. So I apologize, but that was me.
China.
I will own up for it.
That was a good
we could
story.
go to China to be, I bet
you lost them.
You know what happened? No, I wouldn't do that. But you know what would happen is, first of all, I took them to Korea. I wouldn't send them on a thing. But the thing that didn't happen was I didn't lose them, and the good news is, unlike the winter ones, they don't break. So
hey, speaking of the Olympics, you see Canada getting a little feisty in the curling with the Swedes.
I saw them arguing back and forth. He
That
was
dude's
like
hey.
that about the double touch thing, right?
Yeah, but he did, bro. And then he was
I
saying,
know.
like,
I watched the replay.
Then he got mad at them for like having a camera there because you're not supposed to have a camera there. Like, I don't understand how the Olympic Games, if that's an illegal thing and it's being done, like how do they don't have their own camera? But they were getting scrappy. It's like, just what did he say? He said like back the F off, or I'm like, I would think okay. And then the Canadian women Canadian women got the same charge, and they got their stone, I think, pulled off.
they got the stone pulled off. That sounds tough. I mean,
it's so funny. I've watched so much curling this time.
Oh, I'm a curling master. What are you talking
curling
about?
starts before the Olympics, ends after the Olympics. The competition goes on forever. It never ends. And I'm going to tell you something. If I ever become president of the International Olympic Committee, the very first thing I'm going to do after I kick taekwondo out
don't do it.
is kick curling out. Those are the
man,
two
come
things
on,
that I'm doing.
I love curling,
Taekwondo,
man.
I'm bringing in wushu mushu. I'm bringing in pushu.
my God.
I'm bringing in ramen noodles. I'm bringing anything except the current version of taekwondo.
So is actually the Olympics has pretty been interesting to me because quite honestly, I don't know what the exact medal count that the United States normally gets, but we've been, like we've had some rough goes with like Chloe Kim, our ice dancer, the guy, the quad god, we went from first to eighth. Our ice dancers got second. We had we dropped a lot of gold medals that I think we normally get, but who's really doing poor is Canada. I think up to date, if I'm not mistaken, they had one gold. Now they're about to play USA and Canada are going to play in women's hockey in the gold medal match, so they could get another
All
one.
the one gold for the whole games.
So as I checked this morning, I thought it was one gold. I think they have 7 medals total. But Canada, historically they do really, really well. But they've lost a few, just like the United States. They've lost a few in speed skating and stuff. And Russia doesn't seem to be killing it. I don't know is Russia there. Actually,
It says 2 golds so far. They have 2 golds so far.
Oh, they got one today.
2 golds,
I don't
4
think Russia. I
silver,
didn't see. I don't
5
think I saw
bronze.
Russia.
I think you're
in the
right.
Big
Right.
Ten.
Yeah,
But
I
Norway's
did-
actually, we're going to talk about a
But
little bit
I
later.
did
about,
see. I know that you guys are amateur aficionados of this sport, and I really have always respected you for your willingness to do this because not many men would do this sport. But I do remember you and TJ trying out for the men's double luge. And I've always respected you for that willingness to be that close to each other and lock it in, if you will.
you know what our
So
secret
I
is?
just- who was on the bottom? I can't remember.
No, but we
Who-
switched. That's what I was going to
Did
tell
you
you.
switch?
Our
Oh,
strategy is
okay.
we switch.
Yeah, but
because-
I had never seen guys hug on the way down. It's usually they're facing the other way. But
But see, sometimes we switch top and bottom, and sometimes we face each other.
Oh,
because that's a new
nice.
style.
so you're doing
Pardon-
you're doing the 6'7",
my
the 6'8",
ignorance.
and the 6'9". All right, I got it.
No, seriously, that's
We're
the
gonna have
one
to
where
put an
they're just on
explicit
the flat
warning on
sled,
this
right?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're on
That's just
top
the
of
flat
each
sled?
other.
Why you
Yeah,
act
I
like you don't know?
understand that.
Why you act like you
No,
don't know?
wait. So are they pulling or controlling anything? Is there
Oh yeah, they're
any
pulling
kinda,
something.
steering,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
they're-
It looks like they're pulling something. Yeah. I saw the pulling part. Yep. Have you ever
No,
been?
because in the actual ones they have
Yeah.
little controls, right? Where they
Oh yeah, they got a
change
little.
it.
Sometimes the controls get bigger. But have you been to Lake Placid? Have you ever been to Lake Placid? If you
You're
ever go
talking
to
about the bobsled, they do
Yeah,
have.
they do
things
have
on-
something, right?
Yeah,
the
but not,
bobsled has it. Those are
yeah,
$30,000,
not the
$70,000 sleds. But if you ever go to Lake Placid and you want to scare yourself, they have a practice track. You go up to the top of that thing and you look down. I'm telling you, you wouldn't even. You crawl back down. What the ski jumpers do is ridiculous.
No,
The
it's
ski
ridiculous.
jumpers.
I was looking at the one that I think is the big air, whatever. And they got the small skis, and these girls are going down this thing, and it's straight down, and then they jump up, and one chick from Canada, she's going backwards.
Oh yeah,
down that
backwards.
hill,
Yeah.
and then she does her stuff. I'm like, I couldn't crawl down that thing.
No,
I mean,
no.
it's impressive, man. And they're like 18, 19. It's weird too, because in the winter sports, you see people in their 6th Olympics, their 5th Olympics. I mean, they last a lot longer than the winter sports. It's a pretty interesting. It's an interesting conversation. I saw a United States lady today won her first gold medal at 41 years old. I think she has like 3 silvers or 2 silvers and 3 bronze. And she got a gold in the mono bobsled. Just a
Oh.
woman by herself.
Well, you
So,
see,
it's
the
pretty cool.
bobsled, the bobsled is really cool. Like you guys, to be honest, if you were willing to gain a bunch of weight and you could run pretty fast, you could be the person in the back of the bobsled.
I'm not. I don't want to like body shame, but I was going to ask that because the luge, the single luge,
Yeah.
like I noticed like this is early on in the games. The ladies looked a little heavier. They looked a little bigger. They weren't
It's all
skinny
momentum.
girls.
It's all momentum, man.
Yeah,
It's like,
there's got to
the
be like
more-
a certain weight that makes.
there's a certain weight. If you can run fast, because I looked at the men and I was like, dude, these guys are big. They're not like, big and like the Canadian looked like he drank half the Coors Factory or whatever they drink up there, Labatt's. But he ran pretty quick. But they were back in the day. We were like looking at football players.
Herschel Walker.
Because they're big, they're strong, and they run fast. And you don't have to run for long. You run that little bit, you jump in the back of the sled, and the pilot, you just stay
Yeah, but
there
you
and
still
you
gotta learn.
lean.
Yeah,
You got to learn
yeah.
to lean. But I want to thank you too for your service. And I'm sorry you didn't make the team. I don't know what the holdup was, but
We're practicing.
yeah, practice. There's still room. There's still time. So I think I can be the back of anybody's bobsled.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Take it easy, my
Dun, dun,
friend.
dun, 6'7", baby.
So,
All right, so
so
we got a lot
what,
to catch up on. One of the things was, as I was looking at the Olympics, the thing that I've always said to all of you all is the purpose of competition is to refine and define the technical acumen of the thing that you do. So if it's boxing, the idea is through competition, you become better at boxing and whatever the outcome of boxing is. And I'm pretty sure that the outcome of boxing is to punch somebody, and in professional, obviously, to render them unable to punch you back. And certainly in the amateurs, it's similar, although they manifest it differently. If you think about virtually every Olympic sport, the idea is that the competition itself refines and defines the technical acumen of it. So if it's track and field, run faster. If it's shot putting, it's throw it faster. If it's javelin, same idea. Virtually every sport is like that. And so that we'll get into that question, but what do you think of that idea, TJ?
I think that's for me. I think that's more of a when you talk about track and field. I don't think you can do the same thing when it comes to fighting. Well, boxing, or let's use tech. Obviously, we talk about taekwondo. Let's say taekwondo, for example. I don't think the fight would get better if we go back to old. We talk about old school, new school, which I just think one's taekwondo and one's a little bit of a scoring sport now, completely different. But when you're kind of comparing those two, I don't think taekwondo. You get better at taekwondo because you could do more things. You could spin more. You could spin faster. You could nadaban. You could spin hook kick. It was just as impressive then, and I think it would still be impressive now if I can just shut you down and make you miss, and hit you afterwards, hit you before, hit you in between, almost make it look easy. That's what me when I think of dominance in a sport or it getting a little slower. Because when you have two really good people in the ring, I think it's a little bit more paced out. I mean, even when you think about boxing, when you got two boxers in the ring, it's a little bit more slower, methodical fight. And then someone eventually opens up, does some things that changes the dynamics, changes the speed, changes the distance, changes the length, and it gets a little bit more exciting. But I think it's hard to say that you can see a difference in the sport because of the level of techniques they're doing in a sense of jumping high or spinning, all this stuff like that. I don't think for a fighting sport, you can use that same, correlation or connectivity.
Let me dig in there for a minute. Let me kind of focus on that. So there are many fighting sports in the Olympics, right? You can go to judo. You can go to boxing, you can go to taekwondo, and for 10 seconds, karate was in. May it rest in peace. Fencing is a fighting sport. Wrestling and Greco-Roman is a. So are what you're saying, I want to be clear on what you're saying. Are you saying that those sports are totally divorced from their, judo's idea is that you use your opponent's energy and throw them to the ground, and the reason you throw them to the ground is so that they're incapacitated. The impact of their body on the ground is what incapacitates them. So are you saying that there's that outcome is changed in either judo or boxing or fencing or wrestling?
No, I don't think it changed. I just don't think someone started a spinning back fist punch over the shoulder to make boxing more exciting, or like the Superman punch across the ring for boxing. I think boxing as
They don't do that. They don't do that in boxing.
That's my point. So how would you make boxing more exciting? Because you said
I'm not. I don't think the purpose, and this is where we differ. I don't think it's our responsibility to make taekwondo more exciting.
Me neither. No, me neither. I'm actually arguing the opposite. I'm saying because I thought what you were saying was that you can kind of tell that other sports they jump higher or they run faster.
No, what I'm saying is that they're
those same measurements for a fighting sport.
If the purpose of boxing, the purpose of putting your hands up in boxing is twofold. One, you don't let somebody hit you. Two is you hit somebody with sufficient enough force that they can't counterattack. Or if you're capable, you knock them out, because you can still knock them out at the Olympics with boxing. In judo, a full point is when you take somebody, flip them in the air, they land on their back. That's a full point, because if they had hit the floor unpadded on their back, their head, their body, they would be incapacitated. In fencing,
like ippon?
Yeah, ippon. When you do fencing and you do those strikes with the epee or the saber, they have slashing and poking, and the idea is if you had done that, it would have hit a vital area, and that person would be incapacitated. Now, what I'm hearing you say about taekwondo is taekwondo now is some sort of sophisticated game of tag where I don't let you touch me, but I can touch you, and then I win. And I don't believe that to be true. I think taekwondo still is and should be a full contact martial art where the whole idea behind the original scoring system was you were doing something that had you hit them, this came from karate, one punch, one kill. One punch, one kill. So if I kicked you in the chest without a chest guard and my foot hit you in your chest with this amount of force, you would be unable to continue, or it would have damage and it would be cumulative. And I
So
think you're saying now that Taekwondo has changed now to something else, and maybe that's where all this
I mean,
tension is coming from for me.
I'm gonna go back. I guess I'll ask you, why did you? So I think you mentioned a couple of times that you were implemental in like changing the rules for, as far as
Right.
the points, the scoring system. I believe I liked it back in the day when everything was 1 point, because I back kicked you because you were open. I axe kicked you in the face because of this. I counterattacked this way because you made this mistake. Or there was always a reason behind it. Now I don't think so. I think now we're doing things simply for higher point value. And I don't necessarily, and I think that's where we
All
start to
right.
go
So
wrong.
that's a great point. That's a great point. So here's what the original intent, which we created for the higher point. The problem they were having was they wanted to see more sophisticated, and this is, you're right on this, sophisticated techniques. So we were capable of doing Notabans, but it was just way too easy to counter a Notaban. And we could
I did
kick
not a
people.
buns.
Well, you can, but it's way too easy to open yourself up to the possibility when you do high level techniques, face kicks, axe kicks, whatever, to be countered. And if the kick that you're countering with is a round kick, of which you can do many, and it's the same value as a face kick, why bother a face kick? It's just way too easy to counter a face
Because
kick.
their
with a
hands
round
are
kick.
down. Their
Yeah, but
hands
that's
are
not.
down.
If you throw a round kick back,
You
to,
hit them in their body so hard, so many times that they were so worried about you checking. They covered their body and their hands went here, and you kicked them in the face. And then they probably got knocked out.
Nah,
So
if
same,
you
no?
go ahead, Juan.
I'm going to go back to what you originally saying. I go back and forth with the old school, new school. I will say this: if I have to like really judge on the beauty of the game right now and what's being efficiently used and stuff like that, I will say that it's not. I mean, people. I won't deny the fact that athletes today can do a lot of stuff. They can flip, they can flop, they can spin, they can do a lot of things. And I've always argued with that with you, Grandmaster Perez, that these kids can do a lot, but they don't because of like exactly what you're saying right now. What's useful and why would I throw a regular roundhouse kick when I could do a little twist kick, and not put myself in harm. But now I'm going to go back to your guys' original thing. Does that make Taekwondo more beautiful? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. There's nothing that you can say about how we stand and how we just lead out that you could say that looks beautiful. Is it efficient? Yes. Does it score, more often? Yes. Does it help you win? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I won't really, complain about any of the training and the training methodologies, but it doesn't make our sport look better. As like you said, boxing hasn't changed. There's still a jab and a cross. People are just better at it. Judo probably hasn't changed so much. The ippon is an ippon, but they're just way more physically fit nowadays through strength training and bands and resistance that maybe they didn't have years ago. And you could say the same for probably most every other sport. Taekwondo, we are physically fit. I would gather that we're probably just as physically fit, if not more than others. In some fields, we're definitely not as explosive. There's no way that the athletes of today are as explosive as the athletes of the past, but they're way more flexible than the athletes in the past. They can do more. They can create more angles than athletes. So again, are they as durable?
The question is this: you made a good point just now. Everything you said is correct, but the pool of athletes now are more flexible. These same athletes wouldn't be in the pool in the past. Flexibility was important, but durability, which you were going to get
But
to,
you
yeah.
could flip it around. You could say that. I mean, again, this is the NBA talk and stuff like that. The athletes in the era of maybe our era, were too short and didn't kick enough. So I mean, you could say, well, they would have adapted. They would have adapted. I don't really know. We don't really know. It's such a hypothetical question. But I guess my point is, I will agree with you guys. The sport is not more beautiful now. It's not. There's nothing, you know you don't look at, again, if I look at a boxer from the 70s, as rough and crazy as they were, you can't compare them to a Crawford or a Sugar Ray or a Lomachenko. These guys are just so skillful and so scientific, you know? So, and I bet you the same thing you could say for, I heard this thing about like MMA, like, jujitsu. If you were good in jujitsu 20 years ago, 30 years ago, would you be good now? There's an argument to say yes, but because these guys are so well trained as far as physical fitness, they're stronger. So if all things are even, like technically, but they're just a stronger person, a more superior person, they're going to have some sort of an advantage, and also, and this is, I know you don't
Well,
like
because there
this.
was no strength and conditioning stuff, maybe the technique on their side is higher level, or it was
Well,
taught differently. Like
I'm
our
saying
value
it.
and what we thought Taekwondo was a little bit different than what I see now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe they are more
Well,
flexible or faster or whatever, but I think there's still a layoff. I think there's still maybe a toss up for me in my
yeah.
time. 'Cause I don't think we spent much time. I know we didn't spend much time when I was growing up doing strength and conditioning. These kids are talking about they're doing strength and conditioning with kids at like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. This is totally different. I just went to Taekwondo training and we did strength and conditioning aspects to training, but not necessarily strength and conditioning on purpose at another place with sport specific movements outside of my Taekwondo
DJ,
range.
I went to the Olympic Training Center. And they didn't do, I was already Olympian, and they really fought the urge to lift weights. And when I was, I mean, young, my coach, he was a physical fitness buff, and we were doing pull ups and dips and squats and lunges, and we were doing box jumps. We were doing all kinds of things. But when I went to the Olympic Training Center, when I moved there, they didn't want us to go to the weight room. We had to run and taekwondo every day. Run, taekwondo, because that was the Korean mold. Even the Koreans nowadays, the Asian countries, they see the value of lifting weights to help prevent injuries, to break up the trainings, to support certain movements that we need nowadays. So, I mean, I
But what
remember when,
age? What age do you think for Taekwondo do we say we're gonna go into a strength and conditioning regimen? Like, and
well,
I'm gonna do it outside of Taekwondo because I feel like that's what's happening a lot more than not. People. I think we look at this model, what it looks like at the top. We go, okay, these people are training twice a day. They're eating like this. They're training like this. They're doing all these different things, and then we try to, I guess, dumb it down. But I know it's getting a lot more specialized. Where I hear more and see more where they're doing strength and conditioning programs at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old.
I mean, again, I mean, I just did this coaching program in Peru, and I kind of gave my breakdown of pre-cadets, cadets, juniors, seniors, and when I teach them things and why I teach them things. It's an older model. It's funny. I would like to talk about that, in a little bit, but I'll say this, TJ. Um, I don't know. I mean, first of all, it all depends on the individual because you have some kids that are 13 that are way more, their bodies are way more built than others. But I mean, I think the sport has to be first. No, first and foremost. I mean, that's one thing that I implemented more in Brazil. I think second of all, everything is at the right time for the person's body. You can do air squats and you could do lunges and you could do plyometrics. You could do push-ups. You can do all the body weight type stuff is going to physically fit. Make your body fit. You can do band training and resistance training like that, and then you could add in weights. A little bit longer or a little bit later. I don't know if it's 100% correct, but one of my coaches, said that he believes that people should just learn how to do bodybuilding type stuff, bench press, leg press, curls, just so you get comfortable with the weights, and then you can start your more sophisticated movements and things of cleans and RDLs and just stuff like that. So, I mean,
The one official one we did where I did was before the Olympic Games when we did our whole strength and conditioning program.
yeah.
And that was the one time in my career that and I think we did a little bit before, but that was like the boom. This, everything's calculated, everything's this, how
Too
much this
too
we're doing, how
late
much
though.
that we're
Too
doing.
late though. Too late for that. The one thing and the reason I like this conversation for besides it being with you guys is here's the thing that I was going to preface all this by, and I should have started with. We're wasting a generation of athletes. So let's say I'll give you this. Let's say they're more flexible. Let's say in the rare occasion you have somebody who's flexible and physical, they're more athletic. And I'll give you that on one or two athletes that I can think about, and probably a few more. Let's say that you might have one or two or three of those guys that have flexibility, agility, athleticism, and have what we have, which is the grit what they call grit now, perseverance, determination. We're wasting that generation of athletes. And that's the sad part, because imagine those athletes with that athleticism, that agility, that kind of Patrice Remarque killer instinct. Imagine them had they been given the opportunity to truly test what was capable and possible. So that's where I'm sad. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to try to argue, is Kobe better than this one or that one better? That kind of an argument. What I'm going to say is we're wasting a generation of athletes on a dumbed down version of, K-poop tag. And that's a shame, because we're taking a step backwards for the past 10, 20 years in the sport's athletic regimen, technical acumen, that's going to hurt the sport and make us irrelevant. And I was there, as you guys know, for the very first and second UFC. And the idea of the UFC back in the day and what it is now, that thing has just escalated in terms of athleticism, agility, sports science,
But young,
applicability. Yeah.
young, honestly, in the time frame that it's been around, I mean, there's not another sport in the world that has escalated like MMA has, UFC specifically. Not
I'm not,
football, not
no,
basketball, not wrestling. That's
soccer.
no way. No, stop.
Soccer's improved. Soccer,
Yeah, no. I'm not,
yeah,
all the sports have
yeah,
improved, but
yeah.
not meteor, not that,
Well,
not
but it
like
came,
that.
yeah, but yeah, and I'm not going to say it hasn't. What I'm going to say is this: what it originally started out in its concept was different than what it is now and what it thought it was going to be. So
That's
that's like
true.
saying a white belt becomes a white belt becoming to a blue belt. It's an escalation of unbelievable. A blue belt to a red belt, or a red belt to a black belt, or a black belt further on. They're already good, so that you'll see MMA will slow down. You'll see MMA, its technical acumen. There's only so much you can do or change. And one of my favorite guys to watch back in the day was Uriah Faber, because he was one of those guys who,
Ahead of his time.
yeah, he was doing stuff that I didn't even understand. Then there was that other cat that was moving. I didn't even understand how he was stepping. He was moving. I think it was Silver or whatever. This cat, you couldn't even see him, and he was, So they were taking it to a different place. But the question, well, it's not a question. The statement is Taekwondo hasn't. Taekwondo was on that journey. Taekwondo's stepping and its understanding of distance and its ability. If somebody gets hit in the face right now with a back hook kick, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Feelings get hurt. And the athlete may not even understand what happened, because they're not used to getting touched, unless it's a cream that they get from Kiehl's or from a cologne that they get. So the athletes, when you got hit, and I'll ask you both a question. If you got kicked in the face back when you were fighting, were you afraid of losing a point, or were you afraid of being unconscious?
Yeah,
I
for
guess.
That's
I
the
sure.
mean,
difference.
no. Listen, like I said, I think we can go back and forth. But I'll have to say the sport is not more beautiful now. That I can say. I mean, I
Is
can't. I
it because
won't.
sport development is less? Is it because we're spending not
No,
enough
no,
time
no.
on
The
taekwondo?
rules, the
No,
rules,
it's the
the
rules.
rules,
It goes
the
all. It
rules,
always
man.
goes
The
back to the
The
rules.
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 Actually, speaking of the
I
rules,
just
did you ready for this? Did you read this latest thing that USA Taekwondo is doing with the gloves?
oh, I don't even know what that means. It's like domestic gloves, like
Young.
that.
I want to tell you exactly what happened. They Dado made some gloves, some electronic gloves, right, to hit this space, and so they did that. And I think they thought they were going to get approved, but the WT wants these that kind of like curve. We talked about this, that you can't open up your hand. So now they've got all these gloves, TJ, I'm sure. And for some reason, because Dado is built here in the United States, that they got to get rid of them. I'm sure, because why would USA? So what they're doing, Young, is there's for all domestic tournaments, you have to have these Dado gloves that don't have the curve thing. But the WT has a different what do you call it, standard, and it has to be so you're going to have other gloves for them. So for states, regionals, nationals, team trials, you have to have these gloves. But if you go
What
to
about U.S.
opens,
Open too? Is
US
U.S.
Open,
Open too?
yeah, US Open, we're doing the
That's
regular
right.
gloves, because WT hasn't approved the other ones yet. But still, that's crazy. So you can rent them, which means you can try on other people's gloves, or you can buy them. They want people to buy them because there's again, this year we have, well, you have states, let's go, states, regionals, nationals, maybe the finals, and maybe a team trial. So you'll have five events. Probably that North American Open, that G1 Open that's later on in the fall will be the same thing. I'm just like, that's just crazy, man. It's crazy that they would make two sets of gloves, one for domestic and one for international. I just like, I'm so
But they
disappointed.
didn't make it for domestic, right? Like that's just happened to be what they're calling it to get rid of these things. Like
Yes, I
you
think they
like
were exactly. That's my point. Is they should be like USAT should be like, "What? No, we're not. We'll wait till the regular gloves come out."
yeah,
Like
right.
it's just, oh man, I think that's a big. Think about that. You're gonna be wearing gloves. You're gonna be borrowing gloves in at the tournament. You give them your ID, they'll give you a pair of gloves.
Yeah, they did that with the socks at the team trials too.
That's gross
Legit.
too, though.
It's all silly. It's silly. I don't know. I go back and forth. I think the game. Here's my issue. I think the game should be played at the same at all the levels with all the same equipment, all the same this. But also we're dealing with three different equipments. Now we're dealing with three different equipments with two different gloves and all
Stupid.
these things. It's so
Stupid.
it's just chaotic.
It's dumb. If
It,
they want, if they want, if each company wants to, they should have all the same guts. It should all be the same. You know what I'm saying? And if
yeah.
Adidas wants to have their version and KPP, and you say, hey, this is an Adidas tournament. Okay, it's Adidas tournament, but the crap is the same. The gloves are the same. The kicks, are, I mean, it should all. My socks should be universal. My gloves should be universal. But if the Hogu says Adidas or Dado or KPMP, so be it. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
The original, and this was something that happened in 2000. So the WT illegally interferes with what's called performance enhancing equipment, and nobody's ever
I remember
taken them to
this.
task on it. And
I
I
remember.
said it's illegal. In other words, if you look at the Olympic charter, the Olympic rules, athletes are allowed to choose their own performance enhancing equipment. So if you're an athlete, you don't have to wear Nike sneakers. You wear what sneaker you fits you best. You can set standards for the equipment. So let's say you say a uniform has to be white and it has to have this length sleeve. And they do this in judo. They check the width of the sleeve. It could be made by anybody as long as it's made from the right materials. So the WT, in order to make money, creates deals and sponsorships, and they mandate the wearing of certain equipment, which is illegal. A uniform, there's nothing more performance enhancing than the uniform that I wear, or the gloves I wear, or the shin guards I wear, or the chest protector I wear. Now you can you can make an argument on the chest protector because it's a scoring mechanism. Shin
But they
guards and
provide that
arm
for
guards,
you.
yeah, shin guards and arm guards. No, but it's still, if it were performance enhancing, if you say I like the cut of this chest protector, then the WT would say it has to have this amount of pounds of pressure. We're going to give you the electronics. And that's really the answer for this thing when it comes to the gloves. They can set a standard for the glove. It doesn't matter who makes it, as long as it meets the standard.
Yeah, but that's what we're trying to say. But unfortunately, I mean, they don't. I mean, they have their standards. I mean, they have their their uniforms and shin guards and equipment that are. They have certain manufacturers. They have five of them, seven of them, eight of them. I don't know how many they have. And so, come on. I mean, you're gonna one of the ones are gonna. I might like Dado gloves. You might like KPMP gloves. I mean, you can wear any one you want. There's a Chinese brand. There's a couple. There's Tusa brand. There's Muto brand. You can wear whatever you want. So I don't think that's the problem. It is performance enhancing, and they let us do that. But now with this new glove, I mean, it's like, hey, do you guys realize it's changing subject real fast? This ice skating coach Benoit Richard, he coaches
I've heard.
16 skaters from 13 countries at the Olympics. Talk about a badass.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently,
That's
apparently,
interesting. I didn't know you were
Hey,
allowed to do that.
you can do it in the Olympics and Taekwondo too. We've had like people
And what
like
kind of coach? What kind of coach is he more choreography like coach or is he like a technique coach or like what is
I'm gonna imagine he's a technical coach.
gotta be right?
Yeah, yeah. But no, young you people have done that in the Olympics for like we had Juan Ramos for a long time would coach athletes from uh, Ivory Coast, from Norway. He had a couple different countries. He coached for a couple African countries too. So
What
Interesting.
would you say 13 of 16 or
uh,
16?
16 skaters from 13 countries. So maybe a couple pairs.
He's gotta be a bad boy.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, he making some dough. We making some money.
That's
So
He's
funny.
getting paid for all that.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, good
well,
for
TJ,
him.
what else you
Probably
got
a
for us
lot.
today? What else you got for us today?
Probably. I mean, I think the conversation we're having about the chess cards and the scoring system. It's just funny because I always go back to there's a generation of kids who are going to start sparring and doing all this stuff, and they've done it only on electronics, and that has to change the sport. I know you said the rules are, but I think it what's going on. I think it comes down to simply the like more the equipment than the rules. I mean, like it has to be done a certain way. It has to look a certain way. You start to prior I think now with our cadets and even the juniors, we start prioritizing scoring and doing things because it works in the moment as opposed to per se trying to build a taekwondo background or a taekwondo base. Like I don't even know if we have a taekwondo base anymore from the bottom.
That's a great point, and that's I mean, I know like teach the way you teach at your school, young, and it's crazy because again, now I'm going to go back to that judo and wrestling and jujitsu. Yeah, they compete, but if you take away their competition and you see them in their gym, they're doing stuff that looks like their martial art. If you took away our sport right now and you're teaching people, twist, flop, down, like that's not martial art. That's like not martial art. That's Steve Young's argument. And you said it. You said it perfectly, TJ. You said this is not taekwondo anymore. This is kicking sport. This is kick sport. This is electronic touch game. I don't know what it's called, but it's not taekwondo. It
What is
really
it?
isn't.
But that's the
It's
point.
just yeah,
What is it? So in other words, and I have this argument all the time. Not argument. I have this
kick
statement.
sport.
I would take. There's certain things I don't think should be in the Olympics. Curling. I don't have no idea why it's in the Olympics.
I
I don't
love it.
understand it.
Disagree
Shouldn't be in it.
strongly.
You get some beer, and that's what it. With some drunk Canadians on the lake somewhere. But with that said, what is the purpose of Taekwondo at the Olympics? I mean, are we? I'm going to try to think of another Olympic sport that I find kind of laughable. Um, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but are we?
But you
Are,
hate it at that level. I don't really dislike it at the Olympic level. I don't dislike it at the world level to a certain extent. I won't say that all the way through. To a certain extent, we're looking at the semis and finals, and like there's some decent matches. I think it's gotten progressively worse. If I'm not gonna lie to you, but I don't think
EJ,
what
I
I'm
can't.
saying is
I've tried for, and my wife
I
and
know I
I,
hear
and
you.
my wife's a regular person. My wife and I have gotten up in the middle of the night to try to watch the Olympics, the World Championships, whatever was on in whatever country. We would try. We literally, and I'm telling you, my wife is the nicest person in the world. Will watch anything. We watched 10 minutes and went back
No,
to sleep. And that's
but I
just
bet.
reality.
But I think if I mean, and I completely agree with you. But I would say this: I really believe it's like me watching curling. I've watched curling for 4 days now, and after a while, you kind of get what's going on. I bet if you were at the tournament, and again, you're forced to stay there, and you watched one of these good Iranian players, one of these decent Korean players, CJ, you watch for a little bit, you would have some critiques, but you would start to figure out what they're trying to do, what their style is, and I think as a fighter, you would appreciate it at the end level. I do think you would. I
No,
really
I'm not
do.
saying I don't appreciate it, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't see any value in it. In other words, I don't watch
Okay, I mean, fair.
I don't watch baseball, right? I can't watch baseball. I find it
Why? Why?
incredible. It's boring for me. It's boring. I
Okay.
watch the World Championship. I watch the World Series because
But
there's
it's the
something
same
at
game.
stake. I watch football, and I watch football for a different reason. I watch soccer, which I never could watch, by the way.
I know.
Now, and this is where I'm going to say you're right,
You-
because
That's what
I
I'm gonna
watch
say.
soccer because I understand the game better now and the outcomes. Now
Why do
I
you think
could
people don't watch soccer in this country?
they
Because
don't
it's too
understand it.
boring.
Yeah, they don't
They can't
understand it.
stand it. They don't score. They pass the ball backwards instead of going for like it doesn't make sense to them. So I get the frustration, especially like a purist like yourself and some other people. But I just think that there is some beauty when you watch it after a while. You will understand the nuances of it. Like I completely understand what you're saying, but like I do think if you gave it a chance for a little while, or if you were around them training for a week or a month, or you'd be like, all right, these kids, they get after it. They get after it. They can kick, but we always circle back to this: the scoring mechanism and the rule set not even allows them, it demands that they fight this certain way. Like you said, you used to always use Aaron Cook, how good he is, and he couldn't make. Yeah, Aaron Cook could double kick the crap out of people. In the meantime, people are going cut, touch, twist, and just lighten them up. And
Yeah.
it wasn't fair, with the skill set, but with the rule set and the scoring mechanism, it certainly was. You know.
Yeah, and
So
I always feel bad for Aaron because Aaron was a wasted athlete in a generation where it would have been better if he had had more opportunity because he really was a once in a lifetime athlete. Has Great Britain had any success recently at all that
I've had a
matters?
tough time recently.
Mm.
They got Olympic silver medal, right? Kenny Cunningham got Olympic silver, right?
Yeah, I mean, but for the men's side, he and Bradley Stindon was like, a potential
Yeah, he
gold
was the
medal,
guy.
but he got banged up, hurt his knee, so he didn't get anything. On the women's side, Jade was past her prime, she lost, and then was it Lauren
Was
Williams?
it was it Rebecca? No, McGowan or no?
Oh, it was Rebecca. That's right, because
Right?
she beat out Bianca, and
Maybe
she lost.
maybe we should start a GoFundMe to send Pornstachio back to them, so they could have a coach. We get Pornstachio to go back, and give his finger a rest and his slapping hand. But that's another conversation. I was just thinking about that because, I don't remember. First of all, I wish, back in the day, if you got to fight, I don't remember seeing Great Britain ever make it past when we were fighting. I don't remember even seeing him. I saw him at the tournament, and I met a couple of the nicer guys, but I don't remember them making it past first or second round. And then they had a short stint when they went into and they found the kickboxers and everybody else and brought them in. But that strategy doesn't seem to be working for them any longer. Those outliers don't exist.
That worked heavy in the beginning, though. Let me tell
Yeah.
you. That was a thing.
Talk about Arlene Lemus and Juan Moreno, right? So they of course it works, right? And then they either
Let me
adapt or they
tell
die.
you.
Adapt or they die. Moreno adapted and didn't die.
Let me ask you something. We talk about this athlete development and stuff like that. And I know we're in a performance and a result orientated world. I mean, if people aren't getting the results, we criticize them. If they're not paying attention to them, we criticize them. So it's funny because I know we talked earlier, I think a podcast ago, that Norway has the most Olympic medals. And I pulled something up and I want to read this. I'll just read a couple slides to it. And it's pretty interesting because it talks about Norway versus the States. And he said in the US, they're controversial, earn it. In Norway, it's, no, let me go back here first. I'm sorry. The first one is in North America, youth sports start with scoreboards, rankings, travel teams, and pressure. In Norway, no official scorekeeping until the age 13 because the child isn't a champion in a championship bracket. It says when you remove the scoreboard, you remove fear. Kids stop playing to avoid losing. They start playing to explore. Process replaces outcome, and they stay longer. They talk about participation. Oh, they say the national philosophy isn't dominance, it's joy of sport. Fun comes first. When the fun disappears, kids quit. Listen to this. In the US, 70% drop out by the age of 13. In Norway, 93% participate. That's not soft, that's strategic. And they say specializing early, not in Norway. Kids ski, play football, run track, try handball, multiple sports, late specialization, stronger bodies, less burnout, better athletes. Absolute affordability. They make this affordable. We think about how much money our sports cost in America. You know it, young soccer, volleyball, hockey, taekwondo. Youth sports are kept at a low cost, accessible, and nationally supported. Talent isn't filtered by income. It's discovered by participation. Our country used to be like that, right? Kids could, poor kids could play sports. That's why the inner city
froze.
kids. I got a coach right now, and he talks about how
Froze.
As soon as he got to
high-level
something good, he
collegiate
froze.
sports is dominated by
Look at that.
No,
people of privilege.
I think
people
but
that have money.
He is right.
Like,
I did feel like
and
there
it's
was
kind
more.
of true.
I
If
guess
you have
I don't
enough
wanna
money
know
to
the
go
word
to the camps,
inclusion, but there was
to
just
be on the
less things
travel
you had to do,
teams,
and you always had
to
a
be
chance. Like,
seen,
when
you
we
go to
moved away
college.
from the
And maybe
just the
that
regular
kid that had
team
a lot of
trials,
talent but couldn't
process
go
and just
be on the
going to
travel
nationals,
team,
going to team trials,
couldn't
being able to take a spot
go
and
to
go to the world championship
specialized
for your
camps,
first time and
never
replace it
gets
with
in.
anything that
So I
was
thought that was pretty
inclusive of
interesting.
you having to spend
It says
thousands and
North
thousands of
America
dollars to
builds
get
elite
ranking points
9-year-olds.
and to
Norway
travel the
builds
world and
25-year-old
all that,
champions.
all those
One
things like
chases
that. I
early
think
wins,
we
the
changed the
other
landscape of it
builds
at a higher
longevity.
level.
when kids
For
grow up
me
loving
personally, and I
sport,
have
they
cadets and I
train
train cadets.
harder later.
I
They
think
don't
when
burn
they
out
went
at
to the cadet
14.
system, it messed us up a little bit. Are you back?
He's
Oh
back.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you pay? You got them on the line. You paid the bill.
Yeah, I don't know. It was going and then it just clicked off for a second.
That's because you started sounding like Bad Bunny. You were like, oh,
Sorry. I don't read so well.
Uh,
But anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. Just
yeah, but
to
that's been a problem in sport in United States for a long time. He's gone again. He's back
No,
No,
again.
he's back.
why is
The
he doing it?
I don't know, man. You're where are you? Are you back in? Are you in Mexico again? The idea is, did he freeze again or his brain froze? No, he's
I'm
here.
here. I'm
So
looking at the recording.
so the idea originally in sport was
Keep going.
participation, and participation. Even the U.S. Olympic Committee looked at that and said you shouldn't specialize till you're 18. You should do a variety of sports, learn how to run fast, stop, and turn, because that's going to be valuable in virtually every sport. And
But we got world champions and Olympic gold medalists at 18 now.
well, the problem is, look at AAU basketball. So if you don't play year-round basketball, you're not going to play. But by the way, you get short returns, long-term failure. So you get kids who burn out by 17 or 18.
I was saying
That's
when
why
we
the
got
rest of the world is catching up to all of us, like in those big sports like basketball and stuff. So
I was saying for me, I know we all have. Well, you have cadets, and we train cadets, and I work with cadets. And it's always like lean on the side of just pure taekwondo development with those guys because I think they spend too much time in trying to make a cadet world championship team. To me, that's crazy. The concept itself is absolutely crazy. Like we don't need a cadet world champion.
no, so I love this conversation because we've criticized an organization for not paying attention to cadets and juniors, but I want to make sure I state this because my feeling is you don't have to make them the best, but I think you need to invest in them so people understand that that's our process, that we can go. We don't need it right now. Actually, I saw something. Do you know? I mean, and again, we talked about how Mexico is in a difficult state right now. Mexico and their junior world championship team that's happening this year, they've got 7 people that were on their cadets that are now in the junior national team. I think that's starting to show some consistency, and then maybe I don't know down the road in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I'm not sure how old these juniors are specifically. They'll turn into good senior fighters. You know what I'm saying? You're starting to see some continuity. So I agree with you, TJ. We don't need to go to the world championships and win a bunch of medals as a cadet. You know,
It's just
or
the
as a
pressure you were saying about the pressure aspect of it and trying to win that early, trying to accomplish something that early. I see kids that who do accomplish it or get second or third or fall and they're like it's like this like it's an overwhelming feeling. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I like winning. I think watching these kids win and do these things, but like at the end of the day when it comes to development and like you said, kids quitting by the time they're 17 is literally our issue. Like for us, it started with juniors and moved into seniors, but like there was no the cadet age. All those ages were just pure development. We fought our tournaments. We went to nationals. We trained a lot. We fought hard, and then eventually we were ready to kind of compete to make a national team. I feel like we're missing that because out the gate, that's what we're trying to do.
think about like how the average age of Olympic medalists is getting younger. It's in the 20s and 19s in 2021. But again, we can't even keep our people past 16, 17,
Yeah.
right? Let alone 18 and be like somebody. So I think that, again, if the pipeline of cadets and juniors is strong, they will be willing to stay if they're being invested in. Let's talk about, again, USAT for all the money that they have, supposedly for all the great financial situation that the organization is in, better than it's ever been in the history of the sport, supposedly. They still don't have the money to invest in cadets and juniors. They have to go get another organization, AAU, to support their cadets and their junior
Where's the
team.
cadet? Where's the cadets going this year? Is there a cadet tournament
No.
this year?
Yeah,
So there's no cadet tournament.
Nope.
And AAU's funding the cadets. They're not funding the juniors, right?
They're funding the cadets next year. I'm
Next
assuming
year.
to the World Championships. But this year, the junior World Championship team is going to Uzbekistan, and they're not being funded. They get, I think, their hotel
We
paid
talked
for.
about
But
and I had someone tell me the hotels over there like 50, 60, 70 bucks a night. Like that's the
pretty cheap.
smallest part of the investment of going all the way over there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a kid
Uzbekistan's
that
far.
we're doing a GoFundMe for this kid and his family, to raise some money to help him out, because it's an expensive
So
thing. you know.
It's the world championships. I don't understand.
But like I said, I think you're right, TJ. We don't need the best cadets or the best juniors, but we do need a pipeline. We do need to let them know that we're going to take them to those events so they can be exposed to it, so they can kind of incrementally grow with the people that they're going to compete against. But if they
But
happen
even if it
to,
was just a national team training camp or something together, I think that teaches them how to train, teach them how to be around, teach them how to be a part of a team,
great,
teach them how to travel, teach them how to eat, teach them how to sleep, teach them how to whatever. But it should be a part of the process. I remember before all the selection camps, I think I went out to Olympic Training Center like 3 or 4 or 5 times before, and it was just for 3 4 day 2 day training camp, and it was just regular taekwondo training with no win or losses at the end. You didn't gain anything. You just went home afterwards. You
TJ,
know.
when I made my little comeback in 98, 99, 2000, I mean, mine was all leading up for the 2000 Olympic Games. In 1999, we went to China with the senior team and the junior team. Think about that. I mean, it is good. Going to the Olympic Training Center or the academy would be great with a cadet team and take them out there and show them how these kids train, blah, blah, blah. But take them to Korea, like take them to Mexico, take them to Turkey, take them to Uzbekistan, take them somewhere. I mean, take them so that these kids can go, okay, we're not going anywhere this year for a competition, but wow, we got some valuable experience. And quite honestly, at this point, I don't think you need to go to the academy if you're a little kid, because half the time
Nah, we're not
half the
teaching
time,
the right stuff.
you don't tell me that the Damian Villas program isn't better suited than, I'm just talking for cadets and juniors, than the academy. It's way better suited. The TNT brothers, those guys. There's people up in Washington. There's people all over this country that have very good cadet and junior programs. They don't need to be at the academy, but I tell you what they could be good at is they went to Thailand or they went to Korea or they went to, again, Turkey. Turkey has 350 kids in a division and cadets. Tell me they couldn't go over there and be around 30, 40, 50 kids. That would be amazing for these guys.
Nah,
I
for
mean,
sure. That's
I
for sure, for sure. And again, I just err on the side of everything. I mean, I just starting from white belt, going to all the way to the Olympic Games. I mean, like I said, learning how to travel is important. Learning how to be around a team is important. Those are lessons that can be taught at an early stage, and they should be taught at an early stage, because
yeah,
if we're talking about longevity, if we're talking about taking these kids from 11 all the way to hopefully the national team at the senior level and Olympic Games, like these interactions and these things should start earlier than later. You shouldn't be trying to figure out how to work as a team at 17, 18 years old.
right.
You
I
know?
mean, listen, I mean, again, I'm bragging, but like, the Brazil team, we're taking right now, we're taking five up and coming people with us to Uzbekistan. They're not in the national team, but they're just juniors and developing seniors. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're exposing them to our system of travel and how we conduct ourselves, but also to another version of training in the world. And hopefully they can come back. We're taking a 54, we're taking a 58, we're taking a 46, we're taking a 63, we're taking a 68 and an 80. Like those, and these aren't even, you don't even know these people, TJ. They're not, you actually know a couple of them. But my point is, that's how you could start that at a cadet. You can start that at a junior. And so by the time they become 17, 18, they're almost like little professionals. That's not the big wow to them. Hey, we won our first match. Hey, we didn't lose our first match at the World Championships. They're legitimately ready to go win at 18, 19. Maybe females a little younger. So it's
There's a whole study that came out, and I think I talked to you guys about this before, and it's about they looked at the predictors of athletic success, and it's a scientific study, and they went around and kind of figured it out. And when they looked at it, they looked at all the people that had been identified when they were young and their potential to be Olympic world class in whatever it was. And it wasn't just sport, it was in a variety of different things. And what they found is there wasn't a whole lot of uh, trans pipeline stuff where guys that were identified at younger, and in fact, the ones who were making it through the pipeline were the ones that were actually older, and the ones that had been identified older and didn't go through, they weren't phenoms and kids like that. So they then started to look at what was the commonality between the ones that made it through the pipeline and were older and younger, and why? Because that was the thing that was more, because there's always this illusion or presupposition that if you're identified at a younger age, then you're going to naturally be better and you're going to succeed at a higher level. And they just didn't find that to be the case in a variety of things, not just sport, but cello, math, whatever. So there's a question of the development. And that's why when you look at these things that are going on with the things that you guys are talking about, and should they be going to academies, should they be funded? I absolutely believe that they should be funded. If you're going to put the guys in there, then fund them. Just fund them. There's no reason not to fund them, and that should be your money.
I know, like again, this is where it's kind of an oxymoron, because I've heard the same thing. There's no correlation between the youth winners and then the eventual Olympic winners. But that doesn't mean those kids weren't starting in that pipeline. Maybe they didn't excel yet. Maybe they but they went there, but very rarely did they start like at 15 or 16. So you do need to start them young, teach them, like you said, teach you how to travel, how to train, how to conduct themselves, psychologically build them up so that they're able to withstand the ups and downs. I know in our country, people like, the Lopez family, the sisters and the brothers. I know Peter Lopez. I know Jay Jones. I know the girl from Belgium, the girl from the new girl from Tunisia, the kids from Iran. They were all successful at the junior level, and they translated into the senior level. I mean, so you're starting to see that a little bit more. Not at the, you're right, Young, not at the cadet level, but again, I think you need to be in that pipeline and start to kind of feel.
I think I was just thinking more in development, not even about trying to get the best cadet. I'm just saying about building that base of cadets, or giving that group that is excelling or just choosing to take the sport a little bit more serious at that level, to kind of, like you said, expose them to different travel, different situations, different training, and teach them to be a little bit independent, because they that's a part of a fighting sport too. I think we're in a little different sport than soccer or baseball or basketball. Like these kids are going to go fight someone from another country with all the ideas and stipulations in their head of this country's like this, there's countries like this. And I think we just used to do a way better job at kind of bringing everyone together, and obviously funding the team, because if you make any national team in a sport, they should pay for you to travel to the international event that you qualify for. That's just like,
it's a given. But yeah, that's a given.
It's a given. That should be a given, but
that should be a given.
It's not. Hey,
it was.
It was. And that's what I'm saying. I guess that's what drives me. I talked to someone recently, and they were talking about how good financially the organization is doing. But I'm like, if they're doing so well, then why aren't they paying for these other people? Like, I don't get it. Why are you looking for another organization to come in? I know you want to work with this other organization. That's fine. Okay, cool, no problem. But why are they paying for your stuff? Why are they paying for your shit?
But in the meantime, we're looking for a new coach, which obviously would impose a salary, right? So we're looking to spend money on more staff and not funding the team like that. Whatever money, just take it and pay for the team. It's simple. I don't think you guys need more coaches. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about?
We're rolling up on an hour, Noah. We try to keep these things to an hour so people don't get bored. We got
next week we'll talk about, they have released the coaches for the coaching staff for the World Championships, and next week I'll have a nugget for you guys about some international athletes.
Did I make the list? All right. This has been the Warehouse 15. We are uncut, beautiful, staying the same. And as Bad Bunny would say, yo, yo, yo. We are out.
Peace.
All right, I'll get this up and running.
What